As protests continue in Ferguson, the FAA doesn't even want you flying over Ferguson, Missouri. Low-flying aircraft banned from flying over the protest area because of safety concerns. But aviation expert Michael Boyd says safety has nothing to do with it. Michael, how so?
Well, I mean, these pilots of these helicopters, news helicopters, they're very careful at what they do. There aren't that many of them. It's clear to me the FAA and whoever's above them doesn't want people above taking pictures of what's going on. That's got to be the only reason. This stuff about shooting down helicopters or being shot at, that's ridiculous. Has to do with somebody doesn't want photos taken of this.
Wow, that's quite a charge. Now, we have seen, Michael, to your point, an occasion where a television crew, they were from Al Jazeera, was gassed. And then when they fled the gassing, we saw the police move in, dismantle their gear. So there have been a couple of occasions where the police clearly have not wanted photographers taking their pictures and showing what they're doing.
Well, I think that's part of it. And I think the other side is people don't want to see what these protesters are doing, or in terms of looting and things like that. Right. That's an image they probably don't want out there. So anytime you tell the media you can't take a picture, someone's trying to spin the deal. Right.
That's absolutely true. And that's why we have a First Amendment. Our founders knew this sort of thing would happen. They didn't foresee television cameras, but they were in favor of everybody having a clear view of what the picture was. Now, against your point, I can remember several incidents of helicopters crashing while covering news stories. So it is not unprecedented. There is some validity to safety concerns, no?
No, there is, but remember, those are very rare instances, and people in the front of the helicopter flying it are going to be very careful as well. It can't happen, but I think that's the issue here. I think the real issue here is they don't want pictures taken, and when you see what's happened on the ground, I think it's on both sides. They don't want to see what one side is doing, what the police are doing. They want to be able to spin this at some point in time.
Although
yes,
that would assume, Michael, since this is coming out from the FAA, that would assume some collusion between a federal agency, the FAA, and local police. That's kind of hard to accept.
No, I'm not saying the local police. I would say this administration might not want pictures taken either. So the FAA works for them. There's just something that doesn't smell right here whenever you tell the media you can't take a picture.
Okay, final question, and that concerns drones, which are becoming more and more common in our skies. Would this prohibition apply to drones?
We don't have any real rules on drones right now. You know, the transition between that little toy you play with and something that's big that can take down an airplane if you hit it, the FAA is way behind the curve in terms of that. So as far as I know, there's nothing to stop anybody from putting a drone over this.
Well, that's very interesting because, in fact, I would think that a drone would be the most effective means of getting some of those videos out about what's going on. I mean, some of those pictures are absolutely clear. They're all HD now, and in some cases, they could be far more effective than any kind of helicopter shot.
There's no question about it. That could be done, and there's a lot less. I mean, again, you could run into each other with drones, and they could hit the ground. But overall, yeah, those could be a whole lot more effective. And I honestly think that's just the problem here. They don't want pictures taken, and whoever they is can be defined by anybody you want. But someone does not want someone to take a picture with a drone or anything else. Very interesting stuff. Michael Boyd, always a pleasure to see you. The Boyd Group is the name of his company. Thanks, Michael. Well, one thing to remember, businesses are on the front lines of these protests. This video just released of protesters looting a local market. Now, McDonald's also forced to close temporarily as it was overrun with residents looking for cover. And Walmart set up these blockades to keep looters out. Crisis manager Mark Serrano says businesses are being forced to take matters into their own hands. He is one of our Fox Biz All-Stars, along with Hadley Heath and Jared Levy. Now, Mark, first to you. Some people would say that this is unacceptable in our society. Vigilante justice, there's no place for it. What do you say?
Well, if you have a retail storefront with plate glass windows in Ferguson, Missouri, you better batten down the hatches. You've got to protect yourself. So what we're seeing is companies big and small are having to hire security around the clock. They're having to board up their windows because it costs $300 to board up a window, but $1,000 to replace a plate glass window, not to mention your inventory inside. These businesses
What about, let me push it further, though. What about carrying your own weapons? I don't know what the particular gun control laws are in Ferguson, Missouri, but assuming that they would allow you to have a firearm inside your premises, would you suggest that it's okay for them to use those weapons to keep looters out?
I'd say it's absolutely necessary. Look at these photos. and this video of the looting going on. This is not a protest site. This is a crime scene, and the crimes are still going on every single night. So store owners are going to have to take matters into their own hands. Hopefully, we won't see a repeat of violence, but they are forced to at this point. Hopefully, they can turn to security, but there's also a cost to these businesses that's extraordinary.
All right, well, Hadley, what do you think about this? I mean, on the one hand, you don't want vigilante justice. You don't want people shooting dead looters as bad as their actions are. There may be something short of that. But on the other hand, you don't want to be a business owner and just let you stand aside and let your property get looted and burned to the ground.
No, you know, what started all of this was a tragedy. It's tragic whenever a life is lost. That's destructive, and more destruction, I just simply don't see how more destruction, illegal looting, or destruction of personal, private property is going to move that conversation forward, because we do have an opportunity, I think, as a nation to have a dialogue about some important issues, but I don't see how criminal activity is going to really move that conversation
but Hadley, what
forward.
about the idea of allowing shop owners to arm themselves and, if necessary, shoot the looters that are threatening their property and perhaps their life?
You know, I certainly wouldn't advocate for more violence, but I've always thought that the Second Amendment applies to everyone, regardless of whether you're a business owner or not. You should be able to protect your own property, protect your own life. Absolutely, the Second Amendment applies here just as it should in any other case.
Jared, there's another aspect to this looting problem that affects public policy here, and I'm going to quote now the words of a looter, fresh from looting. I believe it's Associated Press that reported this. This is what he had to say. It's Washington Post. I'm proud of us. This is the looter speaking now. We deserve this. Keep that phrase in mind. We deserve this, and this is what's supposed to happen when there's injustice in your community. St. Louis not going to take this anymore. That whole idea of we deserve this, we're entitled to it. Food stamps, housing, health care, it's all free. No one built it, therefore everyone can have a piece of it. I mean, it does follow a pattern, an ideological pattern, does it not?
Yeah, I'd call it a misaligned moral compass is what I would call it. And you know, it's a real Sophie's choice, David, because on one hand, you know, coming from Philadelphia, I remember that when Frank Rizzo rolled the tanks through the city and just impress upon the people that he had control. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I
remember the '68 riots, same there.
Yeah, and you know, maybe on some level you need that, because listen, this isn't about Michael Brown. This isn't about sensitivity to race. This is about criminals. This is about people going out, creating, you know, more problems and ruining that community and the minorities that live in the community. So in my opinion, you know, I think the best thing is, hey, you've got to clear them out. You've got to bring in the National Guard like we're doing, and you've got to educate these folks that, you know what, you're not entitled. You don't rob from your neighbor to make things better.
They don't deserve that.
Go ahead,
Mark.
David, look, the idea is some shop owners may arm themselves to prevent more violence, okay? If they arm themselves, they probably are likely to be less targeted as a business.
Right.
If they see the quick mark down the store get burned to the ground, they're going to have to take measures into their own hands.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you know,
if the sign is out there, guns not allowed, and they're including the owners there, looters might be more inclined to go into those places.
Right, and these are not protesters, okay? These are criminals coming from New York, coming from California.
I think even the president has admitted that much. All right, back to Iraq and how a lot of